today is the day that I film the unpopular book opinions and hot takes. My hot takes, my unpopular opinions. So yes, bear that in mind please. These are just my views, my own opinion. I don't mean anyone offence or anything like that. It's just purely me, myself and I, and what I think. So yeah, bear that in mind. I did want to mention that I am going to be doing a video at some point where I'm going to like react to other booktubers, or maybe not booktubers, your comments, your unpopular opinions, book related of course, Reddit threads and things like that. So I'm going to be doing that. But if you do have any of your own that you would like to share, then please pop them in the comments and I will of course react to them at some point. I don't know when that video is going to be, whenever I have time to do it. So yeah, I'm going to begin and let's get started. So my first one, and I feel like actually this is very unpopular. This is an unpopular opinion, 100%. I don't actually know anyone else who feels this way. It could just be me. I don't know. Maybe there are some of you. You need to speak up if there are. I actually don't mind the film or TV adaptation on the front cover. I actually do own a lot with the adaptation on the book cover. Now, don't get me wrong, I do understand why a lot of people would not like this. Like, I get it, okay? Because if you don't particularly like the TV or the movie, I get that, right? Because I'm actually the same. If I don't like the TV or the movie adaptation, I don't want it on my front cover, right? I totally get it. But if I don't mind it, or I really enjoyed it rather, I don't mind it on there. Now, I do prefer to have the original book cover, but I don't mind. Like, it really doesn't bother me. In fact, you know, I know for a lot of people, they would go out of their way. They would go out of their way not to buy that. Like, even if it was free, they'd be like, no. And I kind of get it. But for me personally, it just doesn't bother me. Like, I'm like, okay, that's fine. And in fact, most of the covers I own actually have got the TV and or movie adaptation on the front cover rather than the actual original cover. And that's not actually by choice. It's stuff I find in charity shops, because a lot of the times they are in charity shops, because obviously people don't really want to keep those versions. Sometimes I do actually prefer it. I mean, it just depends. It's a very unpopular one. It's not a preference of mine, but it just doesn't bother me. I don't mind it unless I really don't like the TV or movie adaptation, then I do not want anything to do with it. My next one is hardbacks. I feel like you already know what I'm going to say with this. I don't really like hardback books, and especially ones with the dust jackets on. I am always going to be a paperback princess. I just love paperbacks. I think they're usually cheaper, they're easier, they can travel easier. The only thing, they do look better on a shelf, and they do seem to sort of sit better on a shelf as well. So I do give them that, and they do tend to protect the book better. So yeah, I'll give them that. Okay, credit where it's due and all. But I just always prefer paperback. I find them really heavy and bulky usually as well. The only exception is I don't mind a hardback if it hasn't got a dust jacket on and it's kind of like a special edition or something. I kind of get that and I don't mind that as much. It's when it's just, you know, when a book first comes out and it's got the dust jacket. I do often, if I have to read hardbacks, I don't have a lot of hardbacks, but if I do have to read them, because the book's just come out, you know, it always comes out in hardback first, I have to remove that dust jacket when I'm reading, because it just, I don't know, it actually gives me the ick. Like, it gives me a weird feeling. I don't know what it is. I just hate it. I literally hate it. I have been known when I was a girl to just throw the dust jacket away because I literally hate it. I just hate it. I'm trying to read it, goes, I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. I find it really uncomfortable, and yeah, so I'm not a fan of hardbacks generally, and I do wish that when books first come out, they come out in paperback first, and to me that makes so much more sense, because paperback, I believe, is easier and cheaper for the manufacturer as well. So like, why don't we just do that? People do tend to go quite hard for the hardbacks. That I didn't actually mean to say that like that. Next one, and this again, maybe this is more of a preference. Maybe I should have called this what I prefer, but I don't tend to like book series. Here's the thing, I'm such a hypocrite, guys, because I'm actually currently reading a book series. That's not to say I don't like book series. Some of my favourite books are part of a series, but I struggle with books that are a series. And a duology I can just about do, a trilogy I can just about do. Anything over that I do struggle with. And like I said, I feel like a massive hypocrite. Some of my favourite ever books are series, right? For example, the book I'm reading now is the Sweet Pea series by CJ Skews, and I've just finished reading the first book and there's five, and I was like, wow, how can there be 5 books of this? Because it's not that kind of type of book either. And I know this is really popular in the fantasy genre, which I can kind of understand, because with especially high fantasy and fantasy in general, I suppose, you do end up having to world build quite a lot, and there's a lot going on in fantasy, whereas like any other thing, I'm like, is it really this deep that we need 5 books for? Like, really? Even Twilight, I would say, like, I don't think we needed really 4 books. Like, you could have easily done that in 3 books, I think. If I know usually that a book is part of a series, it does put me off reading it, and I will probably be like, I don't know. But I always give the first book a go, and that's why whenever I start a book, I will never buy the series outright. I will always make sure just to read the first one, because I always know what I'm like, and I do end up getting a bit bored. I'm intimidated by them, guys. I'm intimidated. Okay, so my next one is more of a hot take than I think an actual unpopular opinion, and this has been talked about quite a bit now, so I'm not going to go like too much into it. So this is about overconsumption, and particularly within the book community. So obviously I do watch a lot of Booktube and book social media, Bookstagram, all that kind of stuff, right? So any kind of social media. And I have been guilty of this. I'm not trying to make out that I'm some sort of saint, you know, I myself have been guilty of this. But it's where you buy excessively a lot of books, and you know, you don't always have the room for it, and you don't always have the place to hold it. And it's not even that, but the book buying, I'm not, okay, yeah, like, but like, that's not so much of a problem, I don't find necessarily, as long as you're not putting yourself in debt because of it or anything like that. But I do find that the overconsumption that I'm more talking about is like, you know, when I see this quite a lot when you really like a book. So I don't know, I'm trying to think of the book at the top of my head, like Wind in the Willows, right? Okay, let's just go with it. So you really like Wind in the Willows, and you have to have every single edition of Wind in the Willows, or like every kind of special edition. And I'm like, it's the same story. Why do you need like 20 different copies of it? That's where I struggle, and to me that's overconsumption. If it's a special edition, it has like bonus chapters or something, or it has something that wasn't in the original one, or I don't know, I kind of get that and I can get behind that. But to have multiple versions of a book, I just think it's crazy. I get maybe even like an extra copy, so like maybe one's just nice to display, and then maybe one you have as like just to actually read or something. I don't know. I kind of get behind that, especially if you bought it secondhand. But I just have a problem people buying like really nice editions, brand new, of like 20 different, and you know, it's so easy to do, I get it, right? Because you're in a bookshop, you see the better version, like you've already bought yourself a really nice version of Wind in the Willows, and then you go to like Waterstones or somewhere like that, and you're like, oh, they have a nicer version now, and you feel like you've got to keep, and that's what they do, that's how they get you, because there's always something better and bigger. And yeah, I think we just need to be mindful. I know it can be hard, but I just think you've already got a copy, it is a nice copy, leave it at that. It's just wasteful, I'm sorry, it is. My next one is, again, I think this actually probably is an unpopular opinion actually. I was thinking like, is this more hot take? I guess it could be a bit of both, but I'm going to count it more as an unpopular opinion. I don't tend to like social media mentioned in the books I'm reading, but hear me out. I don't mind like a mention, like I don't mind it mentioning social media, like for example, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, TikTok. I don't mind them mention it. Like for example, if the character is just doom scrolling on TikTok and they say, oh, I was just doom scrolling on TikTok, that's fine. What I have a problem with is if the whole book is centered on like an influencer, so essentially I guess an influencer trope or like something like that, or the whole book is centered around their social media, or it's constantly messaging through social media. I've read a lot of books like this, and it seems to be becoming more and more popular in books, which I totally get, because obviously we live currently in a world of, you know, social media, so I get it, I get why it needs to be included. But already I've read like the book again that I'm reading, which is Sweet Pea by CJ Scoos. Already it's aged, and it's come out, and I did check this, and it came out in 2018, the first book, but it was talking about Facebook and how much she uses Facebook, and I'm thinking, and she was 27, right? And I'm thinking, I don't know anyone, okay, that my age at least, that really uses Facebook anymore. And I'm not judging people if they do and they're my age, and you know, I'm 28 coming to 29, so you know, I'm not judging people that do that. I'm just saying, we all know where the young people are, and it's not really Facebook. I feel like it ages a book quite quickly, because you know, the social media changes all the time. And I did read a book quite recently by John Mars, and there was also, and this was I think it was released in 2020 or early 2020s, and it was again mentioning social media, and I felt like already that had aged, and I think it was Facebook or it was Instagram, And I thought, but no one uses it like that anymore. I don't know, guys, it might just be me, but I just struggle. I struggle with social media. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of it is also to do with me personally, again, because I'm not a massive social media person. Like, I'm a bit of a lurker. I don't tend to post all that much anymore. I used to be really into it back in the day, but I think as I'm getting older, I just don't really care for much. Again, I sound a bit hypocritical because here I am on YouTube. Sometimes I read to escape social media, so you know, I don't really necessarily want that in my book. I don't know if actually this next one I'm going to say is a hot take. I think it's an unpopular opinion, and I don't actually know if it is that unpopular now, because I think we've always kind of shamed in the book community for judging a book by its cover, but actually now that's what sells. As you can guess, it's about nice book covers. I do judge a book by its cover, and I'm not going to be parting my money with an ugly book. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so what some people wouldn't like, some people would. And you know, I've liked book covers that others don't like, and vice versa. The great thing about our day and age is that, you know, designs can be easily made or generated or whatever it is. So, you know, we have more of a selection nowadays, is what I'm trying to say. Book covers can look kind of whatever you want it to look like, and that's great and that's beautiful. And yeah, so to me, there's almost not an excuse for an ugly book cover. Like, I feel like that's purposeful. Like, that is a choice that publisher, editor, writer, whatever has made. You know, it's subjective, so there'll also be some people that love that, and that's great, good for them. But it's probably an issue that I have, but I just don't like it, guys. I don't like ugly book covers. Book covers I don't like, but I wouldn't necessarily call them ugly. Maybe they're a bit boring, or they're just not really doing anything for me. And I know for a lot of people, they're like, well,
what does it matter? Like, if the book's really good, what does it matter?
For me, my kind of comment on that would be that I am spending some money on this. Okay, it might not be a huge amount, but I am parting ways with my cash, right? And you know, I would have liked to see an effort in the book cover, because, you know, although I don't have this currently, I might want to display it on my shelf. I might want to take nice photos of it. I don't know. For me personally, reading has always been an experience, and I think I want a nice book cover. I want to be able to look at it and admire it, and maybe make, you know, they have like little symbolism that's in the book or something. I love that, and I like a good book cover. Guys, I do. I love aesthetics. I'm a girly girl. I'm a girl's girl. I'm a girl, and we just want nice books, okay? I just really like it. I love a pretty book cover, okay? Maybe call me shallow, call me what you want. I want a nice book cover, okay? That's all I want from life, is just a really pretty one. It doesn't have to be like the most beautiful thing in existence. It just needs to be decent. I think that's fair. Like I said, I think it's fairly easy to do nowadays. I could be wrong. You know what? If you're a book cover illustrator and or designer, then tell me, call me out, because kind of, you know, like with computer and stuff, and like, I don't know, I just feel like there's a choice. If you've made it really ugly, and I'm talking like ugly, like, you know, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it is subjective, isn't it? Like I said, a lot of people will argue that,
well, you know, if the book's really good, does it really matter what's on the outside?
Yes, it does. In the real big picture thing, I guess it doesn't really matter, and I get what they're trying to say, but I just think that, again, if I'm parting my cash with it and I am purchasing your story, then you're gonna give me a good cover. There's a kind of a weird philosophical debate about that, isn't there? When you say don't judge a book by its cover. Well, I do, okay, I do. Does that make me a horrible person? Probably. And then I do have my final one. Got here quite quick, actually. I thought this was going to be longer. Looking at the time, it's only gone just over 22 minutes. I feel like there are a lot more, and I might do a part 2. Yeah, I don't know. So let me know if you want a part 2. Okay, actually, this isn't my last one, because I just realised I do have one more left. So this kind of follows the whole kind of social media thing. I'm a bit scared to say this, actually. This is the one I'm more scared of. I feel like when I say this, I'm going to sound really up myself and really pretentious, but please hear me out, please. My next one is book community on social media. This is more of a hot take than it is an unpopular opinion. Now, I have been part of Bookstagram. I technically do have a book talk, although I'm not very active on here. I have Booktube. I'm trying out on Booktube, right? And back in the day, this is showing my age massively, I used to have Bookler, which is Tumblr, but obviously for the book community, we call it Bookler, which isn't very active anymore, by the way, in case you're wondering. So I have no problem with, obviously, people on the book social media sphere, right? Absolutely fine. You post and do whatever you want, as long as it's not, you know, harmful or anything. I have a bit of a problem because I just find what is my opinion, you're asking? I haven't even said what my opinion really is. I think it's that I don't tend to I have a bit of a love-hate relationship, is what I'm trying to say, because I like it, I can engage with it, and it's great, But I also noticed that like with the book, I think I'm talking more about Bookstagram in particular here, but like I do find, and maybe this is general, and I don't even think this is book community, I think this is anything you kind of like try out, whether it's like, I don't know, say you're into houseplants and you have a houseplant account, or you're into fitness and you have a fitness account. So it's not specifically for the book community. This is actually kind of general, but I am putting it towards more the book community. But I do find that it can be really difficult to actively, at least for me, maybe some people don't have this issue and that's fine, but I just feel there's a lot of pressure sometimes to actively post and to actively engage. And sometimes life happens, you know, and I don't always want to post and I don't always want to engage. And, you know, it's not because I don't like someone, it's not because I don't, sometimes it's that, but, you know, so sometimes it's not that, and it's not that deep. And sometimes I'm not in the mood. And I feel like when you're trying out, and when I was on, because I used to have a Bookstagram account, and I just felt pressured because I would lose followers and I would lose engagement if I wasn't posting actively. And, you know, sometimes that happens because life happens. I'm not, you know, I might not always be in the mood to post. I might not always have something to say. I might not always be in the right frame of mind to be, you know what I mean, you know, guys, you know, feel like there's a lot of pressure. And I haven't been one to ever really care about things like followers or things like that. I mean, to me, it's always an added bonus, right? Like, oh, great, if I've got like followers and I've got people to engage with, like even if I had 10 people, 100 people, 1,000, whatever, like great. You know, I am more about building the community, and I just feel like sometimes people forget that. Like, let's just build a community. Like, we don't have to worry about followers or likes or how many views did you get. Like, yeah, that's always an added bonus, but I do feel like let's just actually do what social media was originally intended to do, which was to help connect people. I do think people are more worried about that side of it, and views and likes and things like that, rather than actually engagement. Like, yeah, I don't know, guys, that's just my thing, and you know, a lot of people disagree with that. This is more of like a mindful thing rather than an actual unpopular opinion or a hot take. I don't know, but I just, there's more of a rant really, isn't it? Okay, so my last one, this is the last one now, guys, is about reading styles, okay? Now, this is kind of two in one. So I'm going to start by saying, and I've heard this said a lot of times, and this is more of a reminder, this is definitely a hot take, and it's a reminder that you can call yourself a reader if you've only ever read one book. Yeah, you're a reader. And that person is a reader. And I will fight anyone on the hill about this, because you're not an avid reader. Yeah, sure, you're a very casual reader, or you're a person that read a book once, I suppose. But there's nothing wrong with that. And you can call yourself a reader. If you only read 2 books this year, you're a reader. Like, and it doesn't even have to be an actual physical book, you know? It's however you read it. Like, yeah, I think we forget that. I think you can be a casual reader and still, and this kind of ties in with what I said earlier, and still contribute to the book community. So what, you haven't got the latest book, like you can still, or you're reading or have the latest book, you can still join in. Your comments are still valid, you know? You have read books, you have read some sort of physical type, you know, some sort of story media. You are a reader. Like, if you read 1,000 books, obviously you're a reader, but if you read like 10, you're a reader. Like, yeah, we shouldn't be judging people based on how much they've read or how little they read, or yeah, I don't like it, guys. I don't like it. It kind of follows into what I was going to say about reading isn't for everyone, and this is coming from an avid reader. I can accept that. I have people in my family who say to me things like,
Beth, I don't know how you can ever read a book. Like, I cannot read a book to save my life. I've tried and I've tried and I just can't do it.
And I say, yeah, because reading's not for everyone. Like, it's just not. And here's the thing, and this is kind of going off on a bit of a tangent now, okay? But I don't like it when I see things on social media saying things like,
It's not a flex, you know, if you say you can't read.
and things like that, or you don't want to read, that's not a flex. And like, oh my God, aren't you embarrassed, blah, 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 and like all this stuff. I do think people should at least try reading, right? I don't mind how you start, and I think all forms of reading are valid, and that includes magazines, that includes newspapers, that includes articles online, that includes fan fiction, that includes comics, graphic novels. I'm including all of that, audiobooks. You know, people always think reading is a physical book, and yes, of course it is, but it's also in other formats, and people forget this. Oh, and electronic as well, like e-reading, I forgot to mention that. And if someone said to me like, oh, I've only read 2 books in my whole life, or I've only ever read 1 book, I'm like, oh cool, like you're a reader. They're like, No. And I'm like, okay, so you're not obviously an avid reader, but you're a very casual reader and you can read a book. But I would always advise people, like I do advise the people,
I can never read a book, I can't.
I said, okay, well, have you tried something different? Have you tried just reading an article online? Have you tried doing all this? Yes. I said, and slowly you can build yourself up.
Slowly.
It doesn't matter what you read. There's no judgment, you know, just, well, you know, obviously don't read something that's really, really, really bad. Reading isn't for everyone. And people, as readers, we need to accept that it's just not for everyone. Because actually when you really sit down and think about it, reading requires a lot from you. Like, it requires you to be patient. It requires you to build in your head and think. And it requires you to be quiet. I mean, you don't have to be quiet, I get that, but it does require you to think, sit and think. And not only that, but it requires your time. It's asking time of you. And some people just don't have that. And even if they do have that, they don't want to spend it doing that, right? And I know for someone like someone like me, I do find that hard to understand, but I get it. Like, for example, if I'm not really into, like, say, rugby, right? I don't know. And if someone was like,
please, how can you not like rugby? Like, are you proud of that?
And I'd be like, yeah, I am actually. But I feel like, you know, when they tried to get me into rugby, and I can see why maybe some people would be really into that, but for me personally, I'm like, it's just not doing anything for me, and that's fine, you know? And that's what I mean. I just think people, it would be boring, guys, if everyone read and everyone were readers, right? And I know, kind of in my head, I'm like, actually, that'd be kind of really nice, and everything would be really utopia, and everyone would just sing song and dance and talk about books all day, every day. The thing about human life is everyone's different, everyone likes different things. We need to accept this as readers, and we need to not look down on little noses at people who don't like to read or don't want to read, okay? Because it's fine. Like I said, I do think people should at least try it, at least. And if they say no, fine, you've tried it. And I don't come from a particularly big family of readers. My nan was a really big reader. My parents, not so much. I do find, and I'm not trying to be a stereotype here, I really am not, but I do find introverts tend to like gravitate towards reading more than extroverts. And that's fine. Obviously, I know extroverts do. I'm not saying, but I'm talking very generally here. So it could be that you just need different type of stimulation, and reading just isn't it for you. Because again, reading does demand a lot from you. It does. I know if it comes quite naturally to you, then that's great. But, you know, reading is a skill. I will argue about that. And I don't know why I'm dancing. That's my unpopular opinion / hot takes. Take what you want from it, or don't take anything, or take everything. I don't care. Guys, let me know what you agree and disagree with. Let's keep it respectful. If you do have anything you would like to share, put it in the comments. Let's see what you got, and I will challenge you. No, I'm kidding, I will not challenge you. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.